Hey everybody, it's Cody Menz here, and this is what's new. Most of you guys are probably here for the Scavenger Hunt code today for the NA server. You can see that right above me. It's also in the video title, video description as well. If you're just hearing about the Scavenger Hunt, I'll go over that as far as the details and stuff about the event pretty soon here in the video. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. When it comes to this video, I've been doing it for a couple weeks. Just talking about like upcoming things potentially coming to the game, whether it's like super test stuff, new tanks, so on and so forth. Usually a bunch of clips, but I'm just gonna have one clip this week to celebrate the person who created the NA Scavenger Hunt, WoTs. In any event though, today's code right up there. Also tomorrow will be Trob's Monkey. You can find him. It should be over on his YouTube channel tomorrow when it comes to the Scavenger Hunt code. Check the schedule to see if the timing has changed or if it's swapped over to Twitch, because he primarily does Twitch. But for the most part, though, it should be his YouTube channel tomorrow on Saturday for the next Scavenger Hunt code. For those that don't know about the Scavenger Hunt, though, there's going to be links. There's going to be a link to Trob's channel here, obviously. There's also going to be links in the video description here. I have a post on Wacouver.com explaining the whole event as far as each token that you can receive 31 times, for each day in July here. You get 9 boosters, and then for 12, 20, 30, and 31 missions completed, and each code unlocks one mission. You can get up to 40,000 experience, a bunch of premium consumables, garage slot, so on and so forth. I'll explain there. It has a schedule to where when it comes to the schedule on my site here, it's not gonna always be 100% up to date, which is why there's also a link in the video description to the official post by WoTs on the World of Tanks official forums for the NA server. Highly recommend to read both of these if you have any confusion about the Scavenger Hunt. Like last month too, you have to complete the missions, from my understanding, before I guess August 1st, or it has to be on August 1st and then they go poof. But most likely you will get a couple, like 2 or 3 extra codes if you have participated for like the first say several codes. That way you can complete them a few days early. Not 100% guaranteed, but that's usually what happens. Definitely double check the official post to make sure about that. One thing to note, if you are watching this video, obviously for most people, I usually stream Friday nights. I will be streaming starting 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight over on Twitch. Also, obviously, I'll have the code there too, but I'll be going over the kind of live AMA and also huge Q&A that the World of Tanks developers from Minsk are doing over on Reddit today on the 4th of July. Kind of a funky day to do it, but I guess they're not from the US. In any event though, I'll basically read through, pick all the best stuff, and kind of go over that on the live stream tonight. And obviously I'll be playing tanks. I'll be trying to 3-mark some tanks, and it should be pretty fun. Or pretty bad. Pretty fun for you guys though, whether or not I'm having a good time or a bad time. Usually it's all fun and games. In any event though, there's a huge Q&A and AMA going on July 4th. World of Tanks subreddit. You can find a link in the video description here as well. All the links will be in order as you kind of see them here on the video. But you'll get a bunch of stuff about stuff coming to the game, stuff why they may or may not bring stuff to the game. Basically the thought process behind things, and usually these AMAs are pretty awesome to see upcoming stuff about World of Tanks. Before we get into the other little bit, there's not too much that's happened between last video and this video when it comes to like what's new and what's coming to World of Tanks outside of this Q&A coming up later today. However, a little clip here. The clip section, again, like I said, is going to be a little small today. Best moment ever in World of Tanks here, courtesy of WoTs, and also me, myself, and I.
What the heck?
Time to... Oh, there we go. I forgot to turn the volume on for a second, but For anyone confused, a lot of you guys saw this live. It was one of the most popular clips on Twitch a couple weeks ago. I stream sniped Damo. I stomped Damo. And yes. In any event, all fun and games. Damo is an awesome guy to where he's why we have this scavenger hunt, so hopefully people don't give him a hard time. He didn't know what was coming. For those that don't know, Wargaming NA, usually Tragic Loss, Damo Sapien, Cabbage Mechanic, Crazy Boop, they stream Tuesday and Thursdays. They also have some other days. You can find them, World of Tanks NA over on Twitch. Yeah, and definitely usually it's Tuesday and Thursdays around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when they start. Usually it's Tuesdays I try to see if I can make an appearance. In any event though, that was the most fun moment I've probably had on World of Tanks in ages. Alright, getting into the other what's new stuff. Let's minimize that. Before I get to this, you can kind of see the Skoda T27 in the background, an upcoming premium tank. There's a lot of news about the British light tanks. They're coming into the game. They're currently in super tests. They might make it into the next patch. It might be 2 patches from now. Who knows? But there's going to be a bunch of links in the video description to read a status report and also the daily bounce as far as some stats for like the tier 10 Manticore. Also like the official kind of announcement that they have. A bunch of pictures showing you these things are teeny tiny and with massive guns. So if you're one of those people that really hate shooting really small things that move really fast, prepare yourself. You probably are going to have a heart attack. But they're still being super tested, so who exactly knows what exactly they're going to come out to be like. But pretty much they're tiny with good guns. When it comes to like alpha, they're shoot and scoot light tanks, it looks like. Might be good spotters too, given the size, so the camouflage should be pretty good. In any event though, they're currently in super tests. You'll see a bunch of stats and stuff pop up, I feel like, over the next few weeks, and who knows, they might make it into 1.6. Now the Skoda T27 back here, either this tank, it's kind of it's between this tank and also the VK 7501K, 2 tier 8 premiums. This one is a Czechoslovakian tier 8 premium medium tank. The other one is a German tier 8 premium heavy tank. They're both kind of finished being balanced. I personally don't have them as a community contributor, so I can talk about them. Otherwise, I would not be able to tell you anything about these. I'm just speculating here, and it's in the client, so I can do that. Personally, one of these tanks is probably going to be a marathon and or sold around frontline. When it comes to the Skoda T27 here, it did get nerfed a bit since it came out of super test. Honestly though, if you go into your garage, compare it 100% crew against the TVP and its 3 awesomely bad loadouts here, and the tank that it's closest to is the Progetto 46. You'll see the Skoda T27 has a stronger turret than the Progetto 46. It also, when it comes down to shooting, it shoots a little bit faster. When it comes in the interclip, it doesn't have that auto reloader. However, it is much faster than the Progetto 46. Specific power wise, it does have a slightly lower top speed though. This tank, basically, it looks like it's going to be super fast. You dump your shells, the 3 shells, really fast. You scoot away, and with the slightly okay turret armor here, -8 degrees of gun depression, you might be able to hold down just a little bit, but obviously it's not going to be anything crazy when it comes to armor. But you can see this in your garage. You don't need any mods or anything. This tank is 100% in the client, so you can find that all on your own. This tank, I think it'll be pretty interesting. Some think they nerfed it too much. I think it's pretty much a little bit better than the TVP VTU, which honestly that tank is completely terrible. So it's balanced. Maybe the TVP will get some love. Last but not least, as far as what's new here, the VK 7501K is another tier 8 premium heavy tank, or not another, but another tier 8 premium coming to the game. And this tank, you might have seen it at Tank Fest, people streaming it. Some super testers are playing it, and more or less, this tank's going to be pretty crazy in its current state. Who knows if they're going to release it right away, but as of right now, I haven't been able to play it. I don't have it, hence why I can even talk about this thing. But comparing it on tanks.gg, there's no armor model that you can see, and you can't compare it in the vanilla client in World of Tanks yet. They kind of have it locked. You can kind of see it has higher DPM than the VK and also the Mauer Breacher. Has higher alpha. Also, when it comes down to other stuff here, aim time's the same, dispersion's better, on the move accuracy is better. The only downside is 5 degrees of gun depression stings, and it's completely terrible, and 15 degrees at gun elevation is horrible too. So that's really the only thing keeping this thing in check, but this thing is going to massacre tier 6s, tier 7s, tier 8s. Like, this thing is going to annihilate things, unfortunately, to where I think it's going to be completely overpowered. We're pretty much looking at the next defender, unless there's some hidden weak spots, which Wargaming, I'll get to those in a second. Wargaming hasn't done in a while. Unless there's some hidden weak spots, this thing's going to be pretty crazy, honestly, at tier 8. Mobility wise, you can see here power to weight ratio is better than both the Mauer Breacher and VK 101P. Forward speed is higher as well, 30 kilometers an hour. So this thing is actually not too, it's not too slow either. Like, the terrain resistance here is a little bit higher, so that might keep it a little bit in check. But overall, this thing I feel like is going to be faster than the VK 101P and Mauer Breacher, which I know they're slow, but this thing, it's got everything going for it except for the side hull armor and the side turret armor and also the rear armor. It's really the only thing that you can say is keeping it in check. 100 HP less and also 20 meters of view range less as well. It's just, it looks like they took this thing, they slapped a crap ton of frontal armor on the front of it, kind of like the VK 4502B at tier 9. 490 alpha and the better gun stats than the other two. But they're like, we're going to balance this thing. We're going to give it a little bit less HP, a little bit less view range too. And, if a tank actually gets around this thing and, flanks it, then maybe they'll have a chance against this thing. Otherwise, when you're in your poor little, say like Cromwell, slinging premium at this thing, you can't penetrate it. This thing's probably going to, two-shot you, I think. Good luck. In any event, some screenshots. They posted these on the World of Tanks official EU forum. You can kind of see, when it comes down to it, only saving grace is if they actually add in the machine gun weak spot here, but they haven't done that in like 2-3 years. So, let's hope that this is a weak spot. Otherwise, this is going to be impossible to penetrate frontally. You can see that the side also has the really exposed turret ring, which side scraping, even though it's 100 millimeters on the side, that's pretty good against 6s and 7s and some 8s. You might be able to pen the turret ring if that's really weak. That's a possible balancing mechanic too. The cupola is probably going to be pretty strong, knowing kind of how they have done recent German turrets like this. But overall, though, this tank, it's shaping up to be, it's really strong frontal armor, really strong gun, mobility surprisingly okay. It's just gun elevation, gun depression, view range, and a pinch of HP. But again, that pinch of HP, it's still decent for a tier 8 heavy tank, the HP it has. We'll see if it turns out balanced. Again, I haven't played it yet, so I'm currently really skeptical. I think it's going to be broken. Last but not least, pitching a question to the community here. Please comment in the YouTube section below here, and also, if you pop on my live stream Friday or another day, feel free to, discuss it as well. Something I've seen coming up a lot in the community is, I hate this map, I hate that map, blah blah blah. Wargaming, you're terrible. Yeah, and then they don't actually pitch how they should design maps. So something I did here, I colored in red here on I did 4 mini maps here, 2 old, 2 new maps, where the red is basically areas that you cannot go. 3 of these maps, including Abbey here, are 1000 by 1000 maps. 1 is 800 by 800, which a lot of older maps are that smaller size. As you can see in Abbey here, though, it's like 30-40% of the map, though, you actually can't drive. You literally can't do anything. To where a lot of older maps are like that, and they kind of funnel you in. Something I've seen, though, is a lot of people are complaining about Wargaming's newer maps, and they hate them too. But at the same time, we, as a community, have basically complained all these years about corridor maps and this and that, and now we're complaining about, you know, kind of open maps, the where some of them are still kind of closed off, as you'll see here, in certain areas, and they're still brawling locations and this and that. But really, I feel like the newer map design, compared to say something like Abbey here, it allows light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, tank destroyers, and, you know, everyone's favorite SPGs, but mainly those first 4 classes. It gives you like at least 2, possibly 3 like routes and flanks that you can actually play on the newer maps, instead of say Abbey here, to where, oh, I'm a light tank, good luck, I'm basically toast. Where, you know, if a map is, or a match is mostly heavy tanks and stuff, like, you know, Abbey, you're really restricted. If you're a heavy tank on Abbey, you go 1-2 line or you go 8 line, and then pretty much whatever you run into, you hope that you outnumber it or you win that first little fight. Otherwise, you're going to get steamrolled and killed. In any event, though, you can see Abbey here, you know, very little, you know, playfield. Mines here, 800 by 800, is really tiny as well. Let me get rid of those 2 maps behind it. Where you can see on mines, there's that huge chunk on the right side of the map, and also, you know, the bottom and the left a little bit too. It's really closed off. Where, you know, even though mines is smaller, hopefully they, you know, take a look at mines. I think the design of mines is decent. It does need tweaking because, you know, the north has a little bit of advantage getting into the center compared to the south. Where they could expand it to 1,000 by 1,000, open up that right side of the map quite a bit. And, you know, the map would actually be a completely different map if they opened up all that red area. And then you have Studzianki, which is a new map. You can see the huge change between old and new, where very few spots that you can actually drive on Studzianki. Where I know people still funnel into like predetermined routes, kind of, that wargaming wants you to go to for flanks. But it gives you a lot more wiggle room and options instead of just, you know, putting you between these two. Or putting you, say, in a valley, you know, say if you're on Mountain Pass and you're just screwed because literally you're just funneled down to your death. Last but not least is Pilsing, which, as you see on Pilsing, a lot more red here on Pilsing. However, where the red is, you can still basically, you're funneled through that, but there's a lot of open ground around it, where you might brawl in those red areas, but it's not like you're completely stuck there. There's multiple entrances and exits. Same thing with on the left side with the warehouses and the buildings. There's a lot of cover that you can't get through and like drive over, like the walls and the buildings, but there's a lot of multiple avenues instead of just funneling you in one funnel and then you run into the enemy and, you know, you hope you outnumber them or, you know, out tier them, whatever. But my question to you all, pick from one of these here. I split the maps into old maps, mid-age maps, and also newest maps. Which group here would you, if you only had to choose one, which one would you say is kind of the best kind of group of designed maps in World of Tanks? Where some people complain like, oh, you have El Haluf and mid-age maps, but El Haluf was pretty drastically revamped, and I feel like it falls more into mid-range. Same with Empire's Border, to where even though that was released somewhat recently, it's still an older mid-age map, to where that's been on the Chinese server forever. All Wargaming did was, all they did was basically port it over to the new graphics and plopped it on the other servers. And last but not least, in the newest maps, you know, Minsk currently is 800 by 800 if I'm not mistaken. They're actually expanding it to 1,000 by 1,000 on Super Test. I covered that last week in What's New here. And they're also adding in some new areas that aren't blocked off, you know, in buildings that you can't brawl in on the 0 line on the right side of the map. And they're also adding more avenues to get through the river that you currently cannot drive through the river and you just drown. So the map's getting larger and more spaces added. But if you had to say, you know, it's not just you only can play on one of these 3 groups. My question to you is, which group of maps do you think are the best designed when it comes to gameplay? Like whether, you know, lights, mediums, heavies, TDs, SPGs, considering them all, which ones do you think are best designed? I like the newest maps, where there are still some clunkers, like, don't get me wrong, like Province, nobody really likes Province, at least it's only mid-tier, but Studzianki, Erlingberg, Ghost Town, Glacier, and Kharkov are really nice. I personally don't mind Paris too much, but I know a lot of people hate it. And the grand battle maps, you know, unfortunately you don't see too many grand battles. I really hope Wargaming, you know, kind of tweaks them and kind of brings them back somehow for 15 versus 15, maybe a little bit smaller. In any event, thank you very much for watching this video again. You know, hopefully the scavenger hunt's going well for everybody and everyone's got the code so far. Tomorrow will be Trob's Monkey. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys hopefully on my live stream later tonight. Have a good one. See you around.